all those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do something slightly lighthearted, and I say slightly because I tend to find the dark things and everything because that's how cynical bitches work. But nonetheless, I'm gonna try and be more chill. We'll see how that goes. So I found this website where there's pickup artisty type information. Now, to be clear, I think there's a very distinct difference between pickup artists and dating/relationship advice, because the connotations that come with pickup artists are typically, well, the ones I know of are typically male, and a lot of the times they tend to have very toxic type behaviors. I'm not saying dating or relationship advice or whatever is bad, but when it's framed in the pickup artist view, it just is automatically toxic, because even being called a pickup artist or identifying as that to me says that you're kind of dehumanizing women or men, whoever it is that you're focusing on. So I don't like that, and I typically just think most of them are assholes, to be entirely frank, and this is no exception to that. So the website in and of itself is automatically a quick shit show, because you can look at the menu and it'll say mindsets, pickup, dating rules, relationship, female mind, social lifestyle, how to form one date. The female mind one already kind of gave me off vibes, because I was like, you'd think that maybe a woman would be in charge of writing that because she does have a female mind, but most of these articles are written by men, which is fine, but it's also like, if you had a tab called the male mind, I'd want a male to write it so I could, trust him because he's the one living it. Does that make sense? I think that's pretty basic logic, right? Don't date women on pills or with issues. This reminds me of that Girl Defined video. Oh my god, where they say to not date Mr. Trouble, I think it was. I can't remember. But the article I specifically want to talk about, that is a whole level of fuckery, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't know how, but they managed to go on and on and on without really saying much, or without saying anything that is helpful. And some of it is actually, I wouldn't say offensive as much as stupid and backwards. How to have sex with lesbians when you're a guy. When I read this title, I automatically was like, why would you want to have sex with lesbians if you're a guy? Like, I don't understand. It would be like me as a woman saying, oh, how to have sex with a gay man. Why do you want to have sex with someone who's not attracted to you? That's such a weird thing. And the first thing I thought of is there's the fetishization of lesbians a lot of the time. And we see it pretty frequently on shows when guys get inordinately excited when two girls kiss, or they cheer girls on to kiss. So the lesbian fetishization is a real thing, and that's the first thing I thought of when I read this title. Normally, when you see an article title referring to having sex with lesbians, you'd probably assume that it was, think, an article geared toward women. But in today's case, you would be wrong. You would be very, very wrong. We love patronizing and grammatically incorrect sentences. One of my friends is a suave South American stud, and I remember a few years ago he would constantly and proudly reference his ability to have sex with lesbian women, even if they'd never had sex with a guy before. Sometimes he'd say that he could even convert them. The converting thing is truly one of the worst arguments. I really hate it, because first of all, you're not converting anyone. Second of all, if you're the person that happens to be the first person that a woman who is exploring her sexuality happens to have sex with, that doesn't mean you have some kind of power. Maybe a woman thought she was a lesbian, she starts dating a dude because she's exploring her sexuality, finds out she's bi. That doesn't make you a converter or some powerful kind of guru in any way. It's a human who's exploring, so you're not converting it. But most of my friend group just laughed it off as idle talk. They said that one lesbian, or at least what they thought was one, girl that he was able to hook up with and had been a complete fluke. But I didn't adopt this incredulous attitude. Not I, Colt Williams. I looked at the situation with a great deal of intrigue. The man is a really good friend of mine, and I knew that not only had he hooked up with a couple of lesbians, but he was also dating a girl who had previously been a lesbian and had never touched a man before. So I knew there had to be something to his claims. I knew there had to be some kind of method to the madness. And then, as I started taking a more concerted look around me, I noticed something very interesting. My friend wasn't alone. I also thought of a couple of other acquaintances I had who were dating girls who used to be lesbians. And then to push things further, I thought of some of my girlfriends who were once entrenched lesbians, but who now are dating guys. One of them just got married to a man, actually. So toward the end of last year, I made a more concerted effort to try and unravel this mystery of lesbians. And did I succeed? Well, you'll have to be the judge of that.
Just as I thought. Trash.
Does this person live in a world where like being pan or bi or anything other than like straight, gay, or lesbian exists? Because truly, it seems like he's just completely ignoring that bisexuals exist, or like any other identity that likes both men and women. So I'm gonna skip certain sections because frankly they're boring and don't really add anything to the discussion, but I will link it down below if you want to lose a couple brain cells. So no matter if they're straight or lesbian, you have a chance to get sexual with all women. And though you can't necessarily have sex with any lesbian, there's a large population of those who are open to it. And my friend discovered his truth long before many other men. He was truly ahead of his time in this respect. So how do you do it? I'm gonna pause right here and say that to me, this all seems like dehumanizing frat bro in the stereotypical terrible frat bro competition, because it's like, wouldn't you like to just have sex with people who want to have sex with you, not make it into this competition of like, I was able to have sex with a lesbian? Because it's really weird and fetishy, and it makes me really uncomfortable. Number one, be open-minded. A lot of the times when my South American friend would get messages from this certain girl who he had been hooking up with, he would say things like, the lesbian wants me to come over and hook up with her. And whenever he said things like this, he would either get looks of confusion or incredulity. This is because it simply was not in the schema of most men to think that a lesbian would want to hook up with a straight man. But what is interesting about the seduction game is that the limiting factor for all men in any area of woman, from one-night stands to sex in public to choking to threesomes to sex with lesbians, is that they simply do not believe that it is possible. In many cases, this is the only thing that actually prevents men from having success. This is the only thing that prevents men from having wild, book-worthy stories. Well, in the sphere of lesbians, if you have read most or all of this article up to this point, you should now, at the very least, be open to the possibility of it. Women's sexuality is all over the spectrum, and once you understand this fact, you will find it is actually not that strange for lesbians to have sex with straight men. So you should look at the situations with curiosity and openness rather than discomfort and limited thinking, because if you go into a situation with limited thinking, you will likely fail to have success. Women, lesbians included, fear nothing more than being judged, so even if you encountered lesbians who would potentially want to sleep with you, do not make any headway with them if you made them feel embarrassed or uncomfortable for having those thoughts. So stay non-judgmental and open mind. I feel like I'm reading an incel's diary, like truly. The level of detachment from reality, and again, turning having sex with someone into like this competition or this achievement is creepy and gross. And it's like, what, you want to have bragging rights that with your friends that you slept with someone who's quote unquote a lesbian who likely is bi or something else? I don't understand. And this patronizing like, oh, women are afraid of being judged, women are this, women are that. It's like, first of all, I don't know if you've ever really interacted with a woman based on your description, but fine, sure, Jan. But I just don't understand what the point of any of this is other than trying to feel like an alpha when in reality doesn't sound like that's you, and that's okay, but this just seems just misogynistic and weird, and I don't like it, like whatsoever. Understand that most lesbians are hypersexual.
I'm gonna kill myself!
Wow.
I'm going to kill myself, and it's your fault!
Why am I here just to suffer? These sweeping generalizations, first of all, are untrue, but also don't help anyone and also make you look dumber, so congratulations, Colt, you look stupid. I do yoga fairly regularly, nobody cares, and I have had this new very funny and eccentric teacher who often talks about being in touch with your body, and when she's demonstrating poses, she will make references to orgasmic breathing and really use your nether parts and sexual energy to anchor yourself while doing various poses during practice. And from the first 15 minutes that I sat in that first class, I knew without a doubt that she was lesbian. Why? Two reasons. Most lesbians are hypersexual. They are very sensual people and very in touch with their bodies and their own sexual energy, but it is not that most straight women are also not sexual. It is more so that lesbians have permission to be more sexual. As this woman was leading the class and making her sexual comments, a lot of the class already knew her, so people were generally laughing and smiling and celebrating her for her commentary. But had most people in the class not known she was a lesbian, or at least expected it, then the reception probably would have been much different. Because straight women who are hypersexual are considered strange or fringe individuals, whereas straight women get negative feedback for being openly sexual. Read slut shaming. Lesbians are celebrated for their sexual freedom by both men and women alike, albeit for different reasons. So you have to understand that if you want to have sex with lesbians, then you yourself have to be very in touch with your deeply sexual side, and if you are not not already deeply in touch with that side, then you have to be open and willing to get in touch with it. This guy's making a sweeping generalization and is using one sole example to prove all of this, let alone that this lesbian yoga teacher could be invented. But aside from that, it's like, don't you want to use studies if you're going to say like lesbians are all hypersexual, and any woman who's like hypersexual who's straight, again, nobody else exists apart from the straights and lesbians, is automatically shamed. The interesting thing is this guy sounds like the type who would slut shame. This is the last one I'm going to read because frankly, I want to kill myself at this point. I know all the men watching this, I'm sure you're taking notes because everything that was read here was of such value. I feel like this guy also makes a lot of men look bad because I frankly don't know any men who are like this, mainly because I don't want to associate with men that are like this. Why are you painting men as these like caveman types that are just here to try and conquer lesbians so then they can go tell their frat bros about it? Go to places hippies and hipsters would go. I don't know in what year this guy is stuck, but truly it sounds like 30 years ago at least. If you want to have sex with lesbians, it's probably useful to know that the non-hyper-masculine ones tend to be hipsters or full-on hippies. You can normally find them in places like jam band shows, yoga studios, Buddhist/Taoist spiritual gatherings, hipster coffee shops, meditation centers or schools, acupuncture centers, burlesque performances, etc. And this is of course with the caveat that you should only do it if you're comfortable with these environments, or at least curious. Lesbians seem to be individuals who are very adamant about deviating from the norm, so they're usually quirky, deeply sexual, and deeply spiritual people. And as this is a post about having sex with lesbians, I thought I'd actually point out where you're most likely to find them. If you live in a big city, going to your Capitol Hill area is probably where you'll find the most lesbians who are open to sleeping with men. I want to know why the entire vibe of this article is the same vibe as those creepy people who come up to alternative looking people, whether they're men or women, and assume that you're hypersexual because you have dyed hair or you have tattoos. Like, I remember distinctly, I made a story time about this forever ago, where there was a guy in one of my classes. Granted, I was married and were engaged, and I had a ring on my finger, so I was never hiding it. And he thought that I was like hypersexual and just like into having like threesomes and all this like shit that I'd never said. And we were in class together in an English class, so there was no place to talk about that in the first place, but it was just like an assumption based on how heavily tattooed I was, because yeah, I'm heavily tattooed. I even remember one guy, back when I was still a virgin when I was 19, thought I had automatically had sex with like 1 billion people because I was tattooed. And it's like, if you want to do that, that's fine. Like, have sex with whoever you want. It's none of my business, as long as it's consensual. They just made these types of assumptions. And this is the same vibe I'm getting from this person that's like, oh yeah, every lesbian is hypersexual. Every lesbian is fucking a quirky granola bitch. And it's like, wait, are you okay? Like, what happened to you? Who hurt you? What's going on? Frankly, I'm kind of amazed that in 2020 websites like this are still up because it's really embarrassing. I guess there are some people who still want advice from fucking weirdos like this who just fetishize women. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry to any lesbian who comes in contact with someone like this, and I don't know what to say. You can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let's get right into the fan art.